Hello OTCers, and as Bayern Munich go into a pivotal week in their season, they need Harry Kane more than ever. I've watched Kane at close quarters for a long time in a Bayern context, both in doing the weekly Bundesliga column for The Guardian and firsthand for TNT Sport this season, amongst other things. And Kane, his record is obviously, it's not possible to argue with it. And no one should. Since 2023, he's been unbelievable for Bayern. But this week has been a tough one because Bayern have just come off the back of two big home games against Inter and Borussia Dortmund. They've not won either of them with slightly different consequences. And I think we're going to get into the Inter one first, really, because this is the one that's going to define their season. They lost the home leg against Inter 2-1. They had enough of the game to at least get a draw and really a win. They created a lot of chances, more chances than most teams create against Inter. Of course, Inter arrived in Munich having conceded only 2 goals in the Champions League this season. Average shot against them in the Champions League has an XG of 0.03. So that just tells you that they don't even not give up goals. They don't give up chances, really. And that's what brought the focus onto Kane, because just as against Dortmund in the Klassiker at the weekend, and Bayern didn't get it over the line in a 2-2 draw, that didn't really matter because Bayer Leverkusen dropped points themselves, so Bayern still have a 6-point lead at the top with only 5 games to go and a superior goal difference. It was linked to the Inter game because you have 2 huge games with the whole world watching where Harry Kane has got the sort of chances that Harry Kane snaffles, and he doesn't take them in both of those games. Now, Jan Sommer, the Inter goalkeeper, we know is excellent and he's having a particularly good time at the moment. But to get chances of quality against Inter, as we said, is not easy. Kane had those, and I think you think of the header in the 6-yard box, which he only put slightly to Sommer's left, and he gathered quite easily in the first half. That one where he's played in, you expect the net to bulge, and he hits the outside of the post is the other one. Kane is peerless since arriving in Germany, on and off the pitch. Of course, he recently celebrated over 100 goal involvements for Bayern, which in less than 2 seasons is obviously remarkable. So there has been no real move to criticise him in Germany. And I think that's fair because he's supported Bayern on so many occasions. It's just the 2 scoreless games in a row that he's had have been in games where it would have been a huge boost to win, particularly the Champions League one, of course, and where he's explicitly had the opportunities, presentable chances that he would normally take. Now, as I said, there's no real backlash in Germany. Why? Well, I think there's 2 reasons. Firstly, because people realise what he's given to Bayern, people realise what he's given to the Bundesliga, and it would be ridiculous to get stuck into him. You know, he's still scored 23 Bundesliga goals this season at nearly a goal per start, and he's got 43 overall for club and country. He's approaching 10 assists as well, so you're getting the all-round game there. The second reason why no one's really talked about it this week is because the story has been Thomas Muller. Now, Thomas Muller, of course, made it clear 9 days ago, at the time of recording, the Saturday before last, that he was leaving Bayern at the end of the season, a decision that he had been personally aware of since mid-March, and decided to share it with the world precisely 41 minutes before Bayern put out their own statement. And he made it clear that he wanted to stay and they hadn't wanted to keep him. So, of course, there's a lot of focus on him, particularly with the injury to Jamal Musiala in that game against Augsburg, just before that brace of home games for Bayern, in which he scored and then tore his hamstring. Now, Musiala is completely irreplaceable. But, of course, the romantics among us look at it and think, well, Muller can create, he can link with Kane, why not get him in to the 11? Now, that wasn't the choice of Vincent Kompany for the game against Inter. Muller did come on and make an impact, of course, scoring the equaliser before Davide Fratesi went up the other end and scored the winner, which leaves Bayern going to Milan this week, facing a deficit and a bit of a stiff task. But Muller has had an impact in both of those games since Musiala has got injured. So not just coming on and scoring against Inter, but he played from the start against Dortmund. He was excellent. He set up the goal for Rafael Guerreiro, another of the substitutes. Both Guerreiro and Gnabry scored as substitutes for Bayern against Dortmund in the Klassiker. But it had been Guerreiro who had been preferred in the Champions League to Muller. Now, while that globally worked and Guerreiro had some good chances and Inter struggled to keep hold of his runs into the penalty box at times, I do wonder if Muller will be chosen this week, because he's got a huge part actually in the Harry Kane story. Accepting him on the pitch and off the pitch is something that helped Kane assimilate really, really quickly when he arrived in Munich. He made a big fuss of him, a big deal of him, invited him onto the team council, as we said, and obviously Muller is a hugely influential figure behind the scenes. But also, these are two guys who, whilst being very, very different players, connect in a way because they've got such incredibly high football IQ. Game recognises game, as they say. And because of that, there's always been this special relationship, if you like, between Muller and Kane throughout the time that Kane has been at Bayern. Now, we talked about the injury to Musiala. If we're talking about Kane needing to score the goals this week, and it's not a question of turning up, because he always turns up, he always gives everything. But in terms of them needing him just to take those chances, it's even more important this week because Bayern have no margin for error. Not just because they're 2-1 down from the first leg, but because of the fitness problems that have put them in this situation. I think led to some of those errors at either end of the pitch. So defensively, they've given away 4 goals in those 2 home games against Inter and Dortmund. Now, normally, with a bit of a flurry, as we can sometimes expect from Bayern in the front half of the pitch, they can get over that. That's fine. You think, okay, if they go a goal down, it's no problem, they'll come back. And even when they conceded the equaliser to Valdemar Anton against Dortmund on Saturday, they had the chance to come back. But Kane wasn't able to take that big chance. He had one really good one saved in either half by Gregor Kobel. Of course, Kobel, an excellent goalkeeper, just as his Swiss counterpart Sommer is. Even younger Kobel, the real future of the Swiss national team. But you could argue both of those chances Kane still would have expected to score. Now, with the sense that Bayern are going to go to Milan and I would say probably not keep a clean sheet against Inter, that means Bayern need goals. They need chances that are created to be taken. And as we said, against Inter, possibly at a premium. So this week, whatever happens, we know Kane is fantastic. Bayern love him. They've loved him since the minute he arrived. He cannot let these chances pass when they present themselves this week. Whatever we love about Harry Kane, big game players score big game goals. And if Kane, of course, could take the chances to fire them to another Champions League final, well, that would absolutely crown his hero status.